Welcome in to another edition of Gold and Black Radio. I'm your host, Derek Schultz, and as you can tell by my voice, I'm actually excited to talk about a loss. I'm about as excited as I've been all season to talk about a loss. Purdue had its moments and even a chance to win before obviously ultimately falling short at Illinois 50-49 in overtime. But on today's show, we'll discuss finally seeing some positives for the Boilermakers in Champaign, and if this is a performance that can be built upon for the remainder of the 2024 season. Of course, we'll welcome on Tom Dehart to talk all about it here in just a few moments. But first, a thank you to our sponsors, starting with Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler Up, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. And the Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. Joining me now is goldandblack.com analyst Tom Dehart. And Tom, I kind of joked with you. I've never been more excited to talk about a win. It just, look, I understand that they lost. It just felt like a breath of fresh air to see some fight and to see some positives from the Boilers Saturday in Champaign.
It didn't look like that for the first 30 minutes, Derek. I think a lot of people cleared out of Memorial Stadium. The offense looked like we'd seen the previous 4 games, only 3 points. I think Ryan Brown had 9 yards passing, Derek. So not a lot of optimism as the team trudged off to the locker room. But boy, what a difference the second half was for Purdue. 40 points in those 2 quarters and a touchdown in overtime. So came to life, and just so many crazy storylines, right? You can't make this stuff up, Derek. The head coach, who's a defensive coach, is suddenly calling plays, and it's working very well. A quarterback making his first start ever, doesn't commit any turnovers, doesn't make a big mistake, almost becomes the first Purdue quarterback ever to have 100 yards rushing and 300 yards passing in the same game. So close, Derek, yet so far. But again, just something to be positive about for Purdue as they really hit the tough stretch of the schedule.
Yeah, and let's talk about the quarterback. You're right. There's a lot of ways that we could go in talking about this performance, but I know he was a 3-star recruit, but I believe Ryan Brown's only major offer was Purdue. And I thought it was just super impressive for him to get kind of tossed into this situation. I mean, you talk about an impossible situation to be tossed into with where this team was for the first couple of weeks, and then to really, maybe take a half to get his sea legs a little bit. But once he got acclimated, Tom, boy, he took off.
He did. And there seems to be an intangible about him talking or listening to the coaches talk. Ryan Walters, of course, and Jason Simmons, and even in the post game, Max Clare made comments about his energy, his juice, and I get the sense they like the kid. Is my point. They're going to play hard for him. So I think that says something about everybody really playing hard for that quarterback, and I think they know what he can bring to the table. Derek, tough guy, he's big, he's willing to stick his nose in there and run. I was worried if he could pass the ball. We saw him last year at Northwestern. He really struggled to pass the ball. And he struggled early on Saturday, but he seemed to get in a rhythm and passed better and better. We saw big plays, Derek Schultz. We actually saw real live big plays in the pass game. It was unbelievable, explosive plays. So he's got to be filled with confidence now. But here's the caveat. They all have film on him now, right? Now they're going to start game planning for him. So now we see what the counterpunch is. We can see if he can continue to evolve and how he responds to being a guy who's now a marked man, so to speak.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to throw a parade over a 1-point loss to Illinois, right? A team that they hadn't lost to in Champaign since 2010. But is there something to – you've been around football a long time, Tom. Is there something just to, like, the proof of concept here for Purdue to finally – kind of see itself be successful for the first time this season? And look, maybe this is still a 2-10 football team, right? You forecast out, you look at the schedule, it is what it is starting this week, Friday night with Oregon, maybe the best team in the country coming off that big win over Ohio State, but at least maybe something for this team. This is still 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old kids that we're talking about, something for them to see as proof that, hey, this is actually going somewhere. We're not just sinking and drowning and completely out of our control here.
Yeah, there's a fan base that wants to see that. There's 50-year-old football coaches who want to see that too. That spark, Derek. The thing that rolls through my head, and I'm sure it's rolled through the head of a lot of Purdue football watchers, is this may be too little, too late. they had games that were more winnable here. We talked about that last month in September. Where was this offensive game plan before is my point. Purdue looks like it's got something with this scheme featuring more of the quarterback run. We saw some different formations as well, and the willingness to use more people. Where was this before, I guess? I mean, you can't lament the past, but we always like looking over our shoulder. And you wonder, what if, Derek Schultz, what if this had been taking place offensively at Oregon State, against Nebraska at home, in Madison? So you just wonder. But again, it's trying to keep it positive, looking forward, Derek. You're right. I think it puts a little lift in everybody's step. And yeah, the lifting's very heavy moving forward here, but who knows? Again, Purdue's got nothing to lose. Pressure's going to be on Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Indiana. They can just let it loose and have fun, and that could be a nice position to be in, Derek.
Just a one-game sample, really kind of a one-half sample for Ryan Walters finding some success in calling plays. But I guess, is this their best path forward for Ryan Walters to call the plays, as crazy as that maybe would have sounded a week ago right now?
It is. If you had told me this stuff in September, I said, you're crazy. First of all, we're going to have an analyst calling plays at one point. And next, the head coach is going to be calling plays, he talked yesterday, he's never called plays in his life. He's been on the side of the football as a coach. He did grow up as a quarterback. He's a very good high school quarterback, Derek. That is what he was recruited as to Colorado. They switched him to the secondary. But, yeah, I mean, he's making this look easy, Derek. And it can't be that easy. But I think it was a collaborative effort. I talked to him a little bit off camera yesterday, too. And obviously, there's always a lot of cooks in the kitchen helping come up with plans. He had his script, his play card there. But ultimately, he's the guy that's got to say, this is the play we're running right now. And Derek, what he talked to yesterday, that he may have even done this against Wisconsin the week before, but he was not familiar enough with the verbiage in the terms where he didn't think he could spit out the play calls quickly enough. So this has been brewing, Derek. And I asked him, when did you decide, hey, I'm going to take the play card? He said 2:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. That's when he decided he was going to take over play calling duties. So again, over 500 yards of offense, 49 points. Derek, Purdue's bigger issue is this defense, and historically, Derek, this could end up being the worst defense in Purdue football history when you look at points allowed per game.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a team that's given up now, 66, 50, 52.
50.
38 against Oregon State was more of kind of Oregon State's decision, right? They were just happy to kill clock. Yeah. Oregon State could have easily gotten up into the 40s if they truly wanted to. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, we're yay raw over a 50-49 loss. There are still legitimate and big time issues that this program is going to have to fix moving forward, starting with Friday night's game against Oregon. But we'll talk about that here coming up in just a second. Tom, wanted to thank Sand Valley Resort, one of the sponsors of Golden Black Radio. Celebrate all the wilderness provides this fall and winter at Sand Valley. Experience everything from Thanksgiving dinner, curling and ice hockey, to ice fishing and snowshoeing, and even the restorative benefits of a guided cold plunge in frozen lakes. Start planning your next winter getaway by visiting sandvalleypursuits.com. Also want to welcome aboard the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Purdue brings together world-class Boilermaker scientists from across the university, conducting cutting-edge research that uncovers new ways to prevent, diagnose, and treat cancer. With your support, cancer research, of course, saves lives. Join the fight and donate to Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today, doing very, very important work over there. Let's talk about an injury update for Oregon. Friday night game, so a shorter week. I don't know about you, Tom. I get why they're doing it. Mm-hmm. I hate Friday night college football. I just do. I always will. I think it should be for high school football only. I just don't like it. You want to play Labor Day. You want to do like a Sunday night game on a holiday week. Fine, whatever. I think Friday nights are sacred, but I digress. I'll get off my soapbox there. What's the health outlook looking for coming up here with this really, really good Ducks team?
Yeah, I hear you. But, the TV people, Derek, they write the checks. They put another zero behind it and suddenly willing to do about anything, right? It's going to be it's going to be a fun atmosphere. It's going to be a blackout, but it's going to have their alternate black uniforms. It's going to have a special helmet with a special logo on it, we're told. So could be a cool atmosphere. I think it's going to be a little chill in the air. Health-wise, I still don't expect us to see C.J. Smith. C.J. Madden's out for the season. They've said that already. I guess the one guy that didn't play last week that really matters the most is Hudson Card, right? And Ryan Walters talked about him on Monday. His availability is still a little bit murky, is the way I always like to put it. It's murky. I like that word, murky. And he was in concussion protocol. Of course, he missed last week, took a big hit up in Madison. And we'll see if he gets on the field or not. Ryan unequivocally said Ryan Brown is going to start. But again, will we see Hudson Card? And what a dynamic that could be. And Jason Simmons spoke yesterday, too, and said, hey, they may play both of them. They may play both of them. We'll see if Hudson's healthy, if he's cleared, and if they do indeed use both of them. So that's the big X factor, I think. Will Hudson Card suit up at all? And if he is suited up, Derek, will he get on the field and be used, I don't know, in some way, shape, or form on Friday night against the Ducks?
Is there concern on your end that maybe this performance against Illinois was just a death rattle and not something that is going to pop up again? You think back to some of the Purdue teams that really struggled. I remember there was a Darrell Hazel team, maybe it was 14 or 15. They went to Michigan State back when Michigan State was contending for the playoff and all of that. I think they were number 2 or number 3 in the country, and they played a really competitive game against them. And you thought, oh, okay, maybe this is something moving forward. Then the next week, Minnesota beat them by 4 touchdowns or whatever else. And obviously, like every Darrell Hazel season, that ended up going the way that it went. Is there concern that this was just kind of a flash in the pan and they caught lightning in the bottle for a half, and Purdue will, unfortunately, I hope this isn't the case, but revert back to being what it's been this year?
I think you make a good point. I think you may be accurate in your assessment that, this may have been something that's really not going to be sustainable, but we'll see. There's a lot of emotion for Ryan Walters too, going back to Champaign, going against Brett Bielema. I think part of him thought too, Derek, hey, who better to beat a Brett Bielema defense than me? I know that defense. That's the defense we run. That's the same defense. Aaron Henry, their coordinator, is running the same defense. So maybe that played a factor into some of the success too. Of course, certainly that new scheme we talked about off the top with Ryan Brown was a big factor too. But we'll see. I think it's going to be hard to sustain. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? It's going to be hard to sustain a great deal because who they're playing here coming up, right? We've talked about that ad nauseum between these top 5 teams. So, you want your quick history lesson too. I remember 2016, Darrell Hazel. There's that name again. Went to Illinois and they won in overtime, and he was on a hot seat. Come back home the next week, homecoming against Iowa, gets smoked. Michael Babinski asked Darrell Hazel to clean his office out. So just 1 week after a big win in Illinois, Darrell Hazel had to clear out his office. So we all want to be optimistic and think maybe this is a spark, but we have to be realistic and have a little skeptical eye toward what happened Saturday to see if they can indeed sustain that.
Yeah, when you talk about rock bottoms for the program, I'd say halftime of that Iowa game was about as low as it gets, where you got 10,000 people in the stands. I think they were down 28-0, which to Iowa is like being down 280-0. You know what I mean? Against a normal team. And it's hard to think back to that. And we hope that that's not the case. But, Tom, to kind of wrap up this conversation, I think the reaction to the Illinois game shows that rational, Purdue has a very realistic fan base. I really feel that way. I've always felt that way about Purdue fans. It's the number one compliment that I could give. They're not crazy optimistic. And maybe that's part of waiting for the other shoe to drop, and maybe that's a conversation for a different show. But I think this reaction shows what this season was. Purdue fans, I think, understood that this was going to be a rough slate and a rough go in 24. All they're asking for is to see some progress, some hope, and some fight. And I think you saw all 3 of those things for the first time this season. Yeah. I think you saw all 3 of those things, at least against FBS competition against Illinois. Yeah,
in some ways that makes it all that much more difficult to swallow if you're a Purdue fan, knowing that, like I said a few moments ago, this was capable. This was already in the locker room. It was a matter of finding the right cocktail mix to make it all work. And the missed opportunities earlier in the year too, we talked about. So I think it's more frustrating for fans to realize that this was possible. Opportunities have been lost, and the season certainly looks like it's been lost too, Derek.
Well, Golden Black Friday will be an interesting show. We'll talk about this matchup with the Ducks and also get a little bit of hoops perspective. The preseason polls are out.
Yes.
We'll talk about that with Brian Newbert coming up on Friday's show. But Tom, enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll talk to you again on Friday.
Thank you, Derek. Be good, buddy.
That's our pal, Tom Dehart. You can get Tom's work, Brian's work, Carm, Alan Karpik, the whole goldenblack.com crew by subscribing today at goldenblack.com. Want to also thank all of our great sponsors for making Gold and Black Radio possible. They include Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. The Whitaker Inn, the Midwestern oasis, perfect for a relaxing staycation or a weekend getaway. Escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort, where you can celebrate all that the wilderness provides this fall and winter at Sand Valley. Start planning your next winter getaway by visiting sandvalleypursuits.com. And the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research. The Purdue Institute for Cancer Research has a history of innovation and one goal for the future: defeat cancer. Join the fight and donate to the Purdue Institute for Cancer Research today. And again, don't forget to sign up to become a member right here at goldenblack.com for all of the best coverage in Purdue sports. We'll see you Friday for a Ducks preview. Until then, I'm Derek Schultz. Enjoy the rest of your week.